I've heard several people say that Bioshock was very heavily inspired by Shrugged. Since I have finished the book, I figured I would go over what I found. First thing to note, I do not claim to be a Bioshock or Ayn Rand expert. In all honesty, I'm not even sure how to pronounce her first name, and I have not beaten Bioshock. I will be using reference footage from when I played the game a long time ago, where a character named Peachy is the last thing I recorded. Second, this video will contain spoilers for both. Now that that's out of the way, let's begin. I'll start with one that's just speculation, the author's name. Scramble the letters around, and we see the founder of Rapture. Sort of. The first is right at the beginning, when the main character's plane crashes. Here's a very brief synopsis of Atlas Shrugged. All the great industrialists of the world have been destroying their businesses and leaving without a word. One of the characters stumbles upon their hideout when their plane crashes into it. Very similar to this opening here. The second is Rapture itself. The valley is described to be like Atlantis, how only the worthy can enter. Similar here, how Andrew Ryan only wants the best with his little creed. In fact, there is also a metal plaque just like this described in the book, and the idea Rapture is underwater makes it even closer. Next would be the slideshow going into the city. The first picture says, "Fire at your fingertips." In the book, there is a cigarette vendor who collects them as a hobby. When asked why, he says, "It's like having fire at your fingertips." The next reference is the speech. It's a reoccurring theme of the book that the strong are limited by the weak.
Where the great would not be constrained by the small.
That money is considered only good to the poor, and the rich shouldn't have it.
No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor.
The next would have to be your guide of Rapture, Atlas. Though he doesn't seem to be shrugging. But in all seriousness, though, if you want to know why the book is called Atlas Shrugged, you'd have to go to Greek mythology. I forget the exact specifics of the story, but Atlas, who I believe is a titan, did something to rather upset the gods, so as punishment, he was forced to hold up the entire world, similar to how several businessmen were holding up the economy, but had enough and decided to leave. Those that stayed could be considered shrugging. From there, I'm willing to bet some of the audio diaries bear the names of characters in the book, but that would take a lot more time and dedication than I want to put into this right now. When I heard that Ayn Rand was from Russia and then immigrated to the United States, I was wondering if maybe Dr. Tannenbaum might have been an influence from this. However, Tannenbaum, I'm pretty sure, is German for Christmas tree. Plus, she talks about working under the Nazi regime, so I'm pretty sure there's no connection there.
No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone.
Another would be a building called the Eternal Flame. In the book, one of the industrialists left owned an oil refinery, and then later torched the place. Fire crews were able to get it out, all except for one flame dubbed Wyatt's Torch, after the industrialist who started it. The flame is brought up several times throughout the book, and is never extinguished. I'd like to think that this is a reference to Wyatt's Torch. One other thing would be the setting. The book was published in 1957, but discusses technology of the near future, such as color TV, as well as inventions which still don't exist. As such, I think the setting of 1960 is just perfect. Next would have to be the political ideologies. The basic mentality I get from Ayn Rand's work is an emphasis on personal freedom and a limit, or no, government control. The book Atlas Shrugged shows what can happen with too much government control, while Rapture shows what happens when there is none. With this in mind, I find it rather ironic that both the people are brought to ruin by their own free will. In ways, both got what they wanted, but at the same time, they didn't. The only other thing I can think of would be how both are able to create worlds just oozing with atmosphere. Both create fascinating and thought-provoking characters that you just want to know more about. The only major difference is I feel like Anne kind of grayed the lines more between good and evil. That's all I've got. If there are sections of the game you are wondering if they would be references, feel free to ask. The events of the book are still pretty fresh in my mind. And if the one twist is what I'm thinking of, the same thing happens in the book. Well, till next time, keep having fun.